Welcome to the Uncommon CEO podcast, where we unpack the mindset, skills, and wisdom it takes to become an uncommon leader in a common world. With your host, the Uncommon CEO himself, Andrew Smart.
All right. Welcome to this episode of the Uncommon CEO. I'm here with Andrew. Andrew, I know what the topic of today's podcast is, but you reading any good books lately?
Well, Matt, I have a commitment to reading and studying. I think it's critical if you're going to live an uncommon way. Okay, that you got to constantly work on expanding your mind and your thoughts, and the only way to do that is to read and to learn from others. I mean, there's no one guru, so we're constantly leading for others, and so I absolutely had. I mean, a while back we did a review of a book that I really enjoyed called Never Split the Difference. So I wanted to take this opportunity to come to you and share with you what I've just recently read.
Good. I'm excited to hear about it.
And so, but before we get started, all good with you?
All's good. I'll tell you, we got a new fridge yesterday and decided to try to move it into my house myself. So I'm a little achy today, but outside of that, things are pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Okay. It's that reminds me of my son the other day too, because I brought him here and did another workout with him. And every time you go to do a workout, you got to up the game just a little bit, right? And so we did that, and it was funny. The next day, he was telling me about how sore he was, and I said, "That means we did something, son."
Yeah, you did it right. If you're sore,
yeah.
for sure.
So I said, just drink some water, do a little stretching, and that means we did good work. And I was proud of him. I can't tell you how proud I am of Drew and Claire. Both they have such good hearts, and they have so many just gifts. My daughter has a creative mind. I let her do something to me over the weekend. She worked on a facial treatment for me. I don't know what she was painting on my face.
There's pictures, I hope, documentation.
There is. Maybe I'll share with them sometime. But she did some facial treatments on me, and I said, well, to make my skin look better. So the next day I was like, am I softer and all this kind of things. So,
yeah.
But she is creative, and they're both just really funny. And I am proud of Drew. He's just growing into this little young man, this little teenager, and he has such a good heart, and just love for life. So really blessed there. So that was. But I had fun working him out. I had fun, and it really is really cool working him out, because Drew really gravitates to being led and taking good direction, and not all kids are that way.
Oh yeah, that's the case for sure.
I mean, when I push him, and I did. When we finished our workout routine, I mean, Matt, I had him carrying weights and then dropping the weights and heading those heavy ropes and doing all the work there. He never once complained. Good. And that type of mentality is going to take him far in life. It's hard. You're breathing hard, but you keep going at it. And so really proud of both of them. But today I want to share with you, and I've got my notes here like I did when we did the last book review, and I like doing book reviews. I mean, it's it's an opportunity to digest on really big topics and thoughts. And so I'm always looking at different leadership or tactical type books. And so this book was written by Ed Mylett.
Okay.
Ed, for people who don't know Ed, he very highly accomplished man. He's if you list the top 150 kind of greatest speakers and leadership gurus around the world, he'd probably be in the top 10. He and John Maxwell. I mean, if I would probably put John Maxwell number one, and Mylett, I'd probably be in the top 5. Really have enjoyed, learning from him. I don't know him personally, obviously, and I don't even know John Maxwell as much as I've studied John Maxwell. But he really has the right mindset, and he's got a great story. I can identify a lot with his story. He was really close to his father. His father was an alcoholic for the first 15 years of his life. But he will tell you over and over that his father is really the greatest inspiration in his life. next to his faith, and how he, how his father impacted his life, how he saw his father take that issue in his life, and by 15, he didn't throw in the towel. He stepped up and and looked at it changing his life, and ultimately, not just his life, it impacted all the lives beyond that. I think I've heard Ed say before that, my father's one decision there impacted all the way to his grandkids. Mm-hmm. And so his father, was a pivotal character in his life. And I, from what I can his father was a larger than life type person, I can tell. But Ed's a very passionate guy, very faith-based guy, very family guy. And he's spent his life, and definitely his adult life, wanting to make a difference. His younger part of his life, he loved sports, tried to succeed in baseball. I think he went and maybe played at the minor level, not positive, I think that's right. But that ultimately didn't work. Like a lot of people who go to that direction. You love baseball, so you know that.
Yeah, I didn't quite get that far down the line.
Well, I didn't make it to the pros, so there you go. Yeah. But definitely he's one who loves the value of what sports brings to your life. Commitment, discipline, hard work, all those things that are very applicable. It's why I like to hire people who understand sports, where they play it. But it's always good if you're hiring someone, like let's take someone right out of college that's been in sports and been on a team where they understand the value of sacrifice, hard work, commitment. Those people you don't have to really say, hey, be on time.
Or accountability being shared is already innate.
So I love sports, and I love people who have played team sports that understand they have a role, they have a responsibility, and they might be great. They might be an excellent athlete, but they know they can't do it all by themselves. But Ed's latest book is entitled The Power of One More. And when I saw that book pop up, I've been wanting to read it. And I've read so many leadership books. I first, was like, maybe I'll read it. So then I decided, I think I was working out one day, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to get that book. And I did. And it kind of just opened up, kind of telling his story, but it opened up on some really critical points that I wanted to dive into. But like I said, it's the power of one more. And when you hear that title, Matt, the power of one more, where does your mind immediately go?
I think it was Warren Buffett that said, if you can get 1% better every day, the compound effect of that is you'll be 37 times better by the end of the year. So the idea of just doing that little extra bit over top of what is needed is sort of the power of one more.
Well, you've heard me talk about that over the years in leadership, that if we could approach every day in our business if we can just get 1% better, because we too often want to look for those bigger numbers of improvement. I use that, when I go and have a physical with my doctor, one of the things he often says is, he says, if I can just get people just to adjust just this little bit, what it would do to their overall results. And so he's often saying, people end up not following through because they see the circumstance of the issue and they get overwhelmed thinking they got to do all this when they really don't. If they can just change one thing, one thing might make the difference. And so the power of one more starts out is really about identity. Okay, we are in our life, we too often kind of fix our identity and stay there. And and he talks about a paradox of identity, and that's where I go. He said, many people know they can improve their lives significantly if they change their identity. However, many people aren't willing to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
We get locked into, well, this is who I am. And then we tell this, have you ever heard someone say, well, if they don't like who I am, then screw them.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Okay. If someone is saying that, well, if they don't like who I am, screw them. Do you think they really like who they are?
No, and it shows they're not willing to change either.
No, they're not willing to change, but they're actually miserable inside because they don't really like who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so they want everyone else to change.
Yeah, it's just a crutch.
Well, it's a huge crutch
Mm-hmm.
because they're trapped into this identity that they have perceived that can never change. And I think what happens is they're trapped into a depressive mindset of who they are. And maybe what's happened is in their life, they might have tried to change at one time. And when they tried to change, whatever they tried to change didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and quite often we get wired into that mindset of, well, I tried it, didn't work. This is who I am. Sure. And then they become the identity trap. It's not just in who we are. Often it can be in what we do.
It's comfort level. It's people thinking they can't work or do outside of their current means or what they know, or just inability to grow.
Well, think about it. Have you ever heard anybody say, well, this is all I know?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, what they're really saying is, this is all I'm willing to know.
Mm-hmm.
Virtually the same statement, except you put that one word in there, willing.
Mm-hmm.
That this is all I'm willing to know. I'm not willing to take any action to go beyond what I know. And so we stay trapped in that paradox of our identity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they stay in life. I think more people stay that way. He goes on into the book and he starts to talk about one more in living in your matrix. Now, when you hear the word matrix, I think I brought that up one time in a podcast. When we heard the matrix, what is the matrix?
Well, I mean, it depends if you like movies or not. I mean, that's
he references the movie.
Okay. Yeah. It's sort of your consciousness of what's around you, I guess. It's a system within which you function.
Okay, so let's hone in on the movie because he really uses the movie as a reference point to this paradox.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in that movie, The Matrix, let's talk about it, that Neo, right? Okay, he's in this paradox of Matrix, right?
Yeah.
And what was it?
It was a place where they were farming humans' brains, essentially, where these people were in an incubator of sorts and given a artificial consciousness of their reality. And he was able to choose whether, would you like to continue to live within this construct of reality, or would you like to be able to impact that reality, but knowing that it isn't a true reality?
So in that particular story, you have a gentleman approach the Keanu Reeves character.
Mm-hmm.
And he approaches the character and with a situational thought for him to consider. Keanu Reeves has seen his life as a computer programmer. This is where his life lived, and that's how he saw his reality. But then, Morpheus, right? He then says, well, what if there's something totally different? What if what you think you are, you're not really? And he puts him in this paradox of decision, right? He puts it, and so he, in that particular case, he's like, look, you got two choices here. You got what, a blue pill and a red pill, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one pill is going to say, okay, if you take this and this is how you live, you'll go on living everything that you've always known and everything that you've always been.
Yeah, and you'll never know that other side existed.
You'll never know.
But you'll be content.
But how many people choose that pill?
The majority of people.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think most people go through that saying, that's the pill I want.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it goes back to a podcast that we did before on uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that I'm not willing to take the uncertainty of what that other pill could lead me to.
Yeah. It's the fear of the unknown.
Yeah. And so, but what we see in that particular movie, the character was willing to take that pill, and that pill led them to a world that they now thought, well, wait a minute, the world that I was living in versus the world now I'm seeing, totally different, right?
Yeah, a totally expanded consciousness.
Yeah. And because of that choice, that singular choice, that one choice that character made changed everything, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It opened up a whole new world.
Yeah. But if you're never willing to make that choice, if you're never willing to say, I'm willing to take another step, you'll always be trapped in this reality that's not really a reality. You're trapped into this mindset of this is the best it can be. Because it'll never get better unless you're willing to take that next step, that one more.
People are scared of risk, scared of the unknown, uncertainty.
So, we talked about, making that choice, going back to the paradox, but I think that goes deeper, and Ed really gets into this talk in his book about, okay, first we battle this paradox of what if I made this shift change, okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, and so that first step of that paradox, what if I make that change? Well, he goes on to diving into what does one more mean in trying? What does it mean to live a life and everything that you do as a one more try mentality, okay? Mm-hmm. It's you look at a child, okay? From the baby's born, when a baby is born, the first step that they make is usually a crawl, right?
Yep.
I mean, I've never seen a baby come out the womb and just taking off.
Doesn't happen that way. Unless you're a giraffe. But,
It's your giraffe, mm-hmm. Right? You got to get them up, right?
Yeah.
And so, but if they don't get up, they die. So.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
And so, but what you and I both had children. We've both experienced, the stages of them getting to walking, that crawl to walk. Mm-hmm. Well, I remember distinctly, with my children, and quite often you'll see a baby go grab something and start pulling themselves up. I mean,
scooting along.
I mean, just mm-hmm. and then you get to the stage of walking. Okay, well, when they go to walk, what happens?
They usually don't nail it the first time. Might get a couple steps out of it and then fall over. But the excitement of doing it is palpable on their face.
Yeah, I mean, I distinctly remember, watching my children walk. I mean, it was one step fall, two mm-hmm. steps fall. I mean, it wasn't like they jumped up and ready to do this thing, keep going. I mean, no, it was a one step fall. I mean, there was a fall process within it. But every time they got up to do it again, what did it lead to?
Just got better and better each time. One more try.
Okay. Think about that in life. Think about that in business. Think about that in relationships. The power of one more. Mm-hmm. But we too often look at, okay, I've tried that. Didn't work. Yeah, I tried to talk with her. It didn't work. Mm-hmm. I've tried this. I mean, have you ever said, I've tried it, didn't work?
Yeah, unfortunately so. For sure.
If you're honest. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I have. But has there been a time that you look back in life and said, I wish I'd have tried it one more time?
Oh, yeah. Plenty of times. Everything that I've learned or gotten skilled at in hobbies and life and sports or whatever, it's the ones where I pushed through and kept learning and kept getting a little bit better every time.
I mean, that's what good coaches are doing. They're encouraging you to try again. Mm-hmm. Try again. I mean, it's the. Do you remember the commercial with Michael Jordan many years ago, where the commercial was like him pulling up in a car and there's, cameras and everything, and it starts talking about, in my life I've missed this many shots. Mm-hmm. In my life, I've had 26 game-ending shots that I've missed. And it talks about, all the kind of, quote, failures. Mm-hmm. But then it goes on, he says, you know why I'm successful? Because basically saying I keep trying.
Yeah.
My success is, even though I've missed them, I haven't stopped shooting. And that is, I think that mindset is the key to it all. The one more try. Because you don't know, just that one more can make all the difference.
Mm-hmm.
That one more, I mean, think about it, Matt. How many times have you worked with a team on recipes and ideas and things like that in their own business, and you've tried it many times, it's not working.
Yeah, you get ready to throw in the towel, but it's just tweak after tweak after tweak until you hit it, because eventually you will, but you'll never find out if you get there if you give up on it.
When I have studied entrepreneurs, when I have studied, historical figures that have helped change the world, every one that I've studied are absolutely similar in the fact that they went through tons of failures before the opportunity. Their greatest achievement was on the verge of their greatest defeat.
Mm-hmm.
And that one more is what made the difference. I was willing to do it one more. I was willing to try this thing for the light bulb. If I'm Jeff Bezos, I was willing to do this one more step or make this one more call. I was watching just last night the coffee battles between Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
And, it talked about both Schultz and I can't remember the guy's name. He was the grandson of the guy from Dunkin' Donuts. In their story, both of them faced difficult challenges. I remember the Dunkin' Donuts guy was like about to get fired by the board, but he asked him, "Give me one more shot to do something. Give me a little window to make some decisions," and it made all the difference.
Sure.
Howard Schultz, I think he got denied like by 240 people for funding, or he called 240 and like 200 something denied him, and he finally got it. I mean, but what if he went through 200 phone calls and didn't make that next one?
There's one more.
And you wouldn't be having Starbucks, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the power of that one more call. I mean, that we give up sometimes just perseverance. I love the story of the guy who founded Sage Valley. It's a golf course down in Augusta, and if you don't know that story, the reason why he founded that story is because he wanted to be a member of Augusta National, and they denied him. So he went and built a course close to him. It's every bit as, I mean, it doesn't have the prestige of Augusta National, but it's every bit as nice as Augusta National. And then he goes on to hire all the caddies from Augusta National. But he has a great story, because how did he make his money? Well, he, in I guess his early 70s, he recognized this company out of Arkansas that was growing. It's a company called Walmart. You might have heard of it.
I figured you were going there.
Yeah, it's and he was a young real estate guy, and he saw this company. And he's like, I want to go help them in their real estate development. At that time, interesting enough, I think when he went to them, Walmart wasn't even out of the state of Arkansas, so they hadn't expanded out of Arkansas yet. He goes down to the headquarters in Bentonville, and he wants to meet Sam. Sam Walton. He shows up every day because he's got no appointment with him, but he keeps showing up in the lobby. And I think the story goes, by that Friday, end of the week afternoon, finally Sam Walton comes out and says, "What do you want?"
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "I want to handle your real estate." And he ended up being the head guy to help develop Walmart's. And he and how he made his money, interesting enough, was whenever you still saw Walmart being built, they took a pretty good sized piece of land, and he asked if he could build the out parcels in front of the store. Funny part of the relationship, in the 90s and some of the expansion and kind of the economy, he got in a little trouble financially, and because his relationship was so strong with Walmart, they backed him.
Oh, that's great.
They went to the bank and said, "We're going to back this guy." So he made tons of money, but kept getting denied to be a member of Augusta National, and that's what he went and did. But, what if he didn't stay one more day in Bentonville? See, my mind is, even if Sam hadn't come out Friday, he'd still been there the next week.
I believe it.
Yeah, but if he didn't have that mindset of, well, tomorrow might be the day. Because too often we get the mindset that it didn't work today. Why would it work tomorrow?
You need the mindset of a perennial optimist is what you need.
Yeah, one more. He also goes into one more emotion, and I'm going to read a couple of thoughts on that. All of us experience 5 or 6 consistent emotions in a home every day, he said. And no matter what your life conditions are, you find a way to get those emotions. I mean, do you ever feel emotions when you're home? What's my wife's emotions today? And then I'll respond accordingly.
It's accurate. Yeah.
Well, any wise man would say that, you know. I mean, so yeah, I mean, if she's good, I'm good. Right? So, but every one of us is conditioned to return to our emotional homes, even if the emotions don't serve us well. And what he's really talking about is, you know, that the emotional home is what's inside of us. Okay, what are the emotions that we live day in and day out? And you know, and he says, have you ever noticed that no matter what's going on in your life, you always seem to find the same half dozen emotions? You know, that at any given time, there is a repertoire of emotions that we all kind of go to, right? And they're led by, I know people, and I think you know some people that, you know, the minute you get a bad situation, they just kind of go off.
Yeah. Blow their top, or they just don't know how to handle it and just completely shut down. Yeah.
I mean, then there's others who, you know, it's like me. If I get some bad news, my immediate first emotion is to internally process before I'm going to respond. You know, that I got to deal with the inner emotion before I'm going to let the outer emotion come out. And so we all have these emotions. He goes and says, for example, you may seek out worry, insecurity, fear, and anxiety, not necessarily because you want to. You do it because these emotions are familiar to you. And that's a fact. You always gravitate to familiarity. You know, and we're wired to do that. That goes because familiarity leads to what we talked about before. That's our comfort versus uncomfortability. You know, we love familiar things. You know, most of us don't like embracing unfamiliar. Too often in life, it's easier to go to the friends you know versus the ones you hadn't met yet, meaning you hadn't developed new ones. And quite often, many of us need to develop new friends because our old friends aren't really great for us anyway.
Yeah, it's often true. I mean, as life goes, if you're changing, the people you surround yourself also should be changing.
Yeah, but we don't operate that. It's like what I've done in business before where I want to grow, I want to evolve, I want to change. But many of the people with me don't want to. So I got caught in that trap, you know, for a long time. Well, sure you do. So I'm going to drag you through the change. And that doesn't work. You know, you can't drag people through change. They either want to evolve and want to embrace the change or they don't. And if you drag them, you know, you're going to create, you know, some very bad dynamics.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, you know, that's a good leader, an uncommon leader absolutely gets the fact that, hey, my job's not to force you to go with me. My job's to lead with you and you make a decision. Are you going? You know, because if I got to talk you into going with me, you're probably not right for the journey.
Yeah. You weren't ever going to do it on your own.
Well, you know, if I got to convince you, then you haven't bought into what I'm doing and who I am and where I'm going. But if you're constantly having to convince someone, I mean, it's like going back to early dating life. I mean, if you got to constantly work to convince her.
Yeah, she probably is not the right one.
Well, I can tell you this, it's not going to work out down the road.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you don't want to be with someone that you got to constantly convince. You know, you want to be with someone who has bought into you and is with you through, you know, because, I mean, life's that journey, man. It's a growth uphill, and that hill has a lot of obstacles. So every time you go through an obstacle, you want to turn around and try to convince them to go through an obstacle with you?
Nope.
No, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. So he goes on in the book in this one more mindset. He talks about one more dream. Okay. What do you like about dreams?
Well, I mean, sometimes it allows you to be in a place that you might not have had the opportunity to be in. I like dreams because it gives you hope, gives you optimism, gives you something to strive for.
Well, Matt, would you consider yourself a creative guy?
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
Yeah, I think I'm a creative guy. We have our creativity in different areas, but love creativity. Here's the deal about dreams, okay? can you imagine a life that doesn't have dreams and ideas and thoughts? We're taught as children, to dream. Mm-hmm. And if you're a good parent, you teach your children to dream big. I always want to have big dreams. Mm-hmm. I can tell you in my life, I've had big dreams. I hadn't always had big resources, but I've had big dreams.
Sure, yeah.
And anyone who's ever achieved any big dreams will be honest and said, I might not have big resources, but I had big dreams. Mm-hmm. And so, but the dream is the catalyst to the opportunity. Because the dream is visualizing, whatever it is. You're visualizing what isn't, but what can be. Mm-hmm. If you can never dream of being great, you'll never be great. If you can never dream that an idea can become reality, it'll never be reality. Mm-hmm. And so dreams, to me, is what makes life truly, great. The idea of not being able to have dreams is a very sad thing. What happens is that, many people go through life and they have dreams and then their dreams might get stomped on. Mm-hmm. Because I learned this as a young entrepreneur. Be careful who you share your dreams with. See, that's the one thing that actually I teach in leadership and love teaching younger people who have, and they're sharing with me their dreams. I'm a good person to share your dream with. Because I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to value and I'm going to give you some thoughts. I'm not going to make decisions for you. I'm going to give you some thoughts. But I was recently talking with a young lady who wanted to start a podcast. Mm-hmm. And she came to me to just listen to some ideas and thoughts. And I told her about the story, told her about how we, got this podcast started, how we started couple of years ago with an idea, and then it fast forward over here, mm-hmm. and so we had this great time together. She actually asked me, "When are you going to write your book?" I said, "Well, I'm going to get around to that dream at some point." Yeah, it's a dream that I do want to make a reality. But I told her that I said, I love where your mind's going. I love that your willingness to be bold and step out on your ideas. But I told her, be careful who you share them with, because you'll want people to buy into your dream. You'll see it. You'll believe it. You'll see all this kind of stuff, and you'll be like, why can't they see it? It's because they can't see it, and you want them to buy into it and jump on board with you. And most of those people you're going to go to are family.
Yep. They don't mind stomping on dreams sometimes.
Family will stop on dreams faster than anybody.
Yep.
That, I promise you, I've lived it, experienced it. If you're leaning in that direction, and she said, you're exactly right. I said, it doesn't make them bad. That doesn't mean anything like that. You just have to be careful who you share your dreams with. And if you're sharing with someone who, doesn't have some type of dreams themselves, or they haven't, gone through and experienced some dreams, and you're going to get constant, what I honestly would say would be some negative, hurtful feedback. And I lived that. I knew what that was like. I knew as a young guy that wanted to step out and do things and be bold and take risks. And when you're surrounded by people who said, you're going to fail, why are you doing that? It can be very deflating. So you have to be careful who you share your dreams with. But the idea of one more dream is embracing the future. Mm-hmm. I always want to be a forward guy. I don't want my life being dictated by my past. Mm-hmm. Okay, as a guy who loves history, I understand the importance of evaluating past, but I don't want to define who I am. I always want to be defined by where I'm going, not where I've been. Mm-hmm. So many people in life want to be defined on where they've been, what they used to do, what they were back then. I never want that. I want to be defined as a man who is always growing, always learning, always getting better, that I've gone through so much at this stage of my life, and yet I realize how much I don't know and how much and I want to live in the power of what one more can be. And I want to live that till the day I die. What one more? That's a true mindset, that the best is always in front of you, right?
Yeah. Because anybody that's just looking in the rear view the whole time probably doesn't have a dream to come. They're just resting on their laurels because of what happened or what skills they bring to the table. But if you're not constantly, like you said, honing your discipline blade, you're not getting better.
Well, I believe, like I said, from young kids, that all of us born with a God-given ability to dream. Mm-hmm. You know, and the dreams all measure in different ways to dream. But most of us die with our dreams. You know, most dreams never become reality. It's like, I've said this many times, and I learned this from John Maxwell, that the greatest ideas and the greatest dreams and the greatest inventions are all in the graveyard. Mm-hmm. Because they were never acted on. For whatever reason, they were never acted on. Don't want to be that. I want to always take one more dream. And if this dream didn't work, I want to go to the next. I want to take one more. Power of one more. He goes on to one more habit. Now, you and I have talked a lot about habits. Mm-hmm. And so habits are patterns that we already know, right?
Yep.
Okay. And we've talked about, that habits can be good and bad, right?
Absolutely. You can have a bad habit of eating cheeseburgers every day or have a good habit of eating a salad every day.
And so the habits become what he says like autopilots of our life. We operate in habits in our life. Mm-hmm. That is where, that is where, that most of our lives truly are governed by our habits. And so he talks about what we've talked about before is, where are your habits? What are the habits that are serving you and what are the ones that aren't serving you? Mm-hmm. And what can you do in them, and how can you look at basically creating one more good one? Mm-hmm. Because in order to have an effective life, you've got to minimize the bad ones and you got to optimize the good ones.
And it's outside. It's not just health. I mean, it's how you interact with people, how you focus on the good in life.
I heard another leader, motivational guy said, we are governed by our habits and the opinions of others.
There's truth to that for sure.
He said convenience and greatness cannot coexist. I love that thought. And it's so true because we as humans love convenience. I love convenience. I mean, we live in a world that absolutely, monetizes convenience.
I mean, I bought the fridge I got yesterday is because our ice maker just kept not working. And man, having an ice maker again is a game changer. Yeah. It's just silly little things like that. But our whole consumerism is based off of convenience.
And we've talked about that. We've talked about this word convenience before. And you're right. We pay for convenience. Mm-hmm. We pay for service, convenience. I mean, convenience matters. But greatness and convenience don't coexist.
Sure.
I mean, you become great in things that are hard. Mm-hmm. You don't become great in convenience. And so, he talks about inconveniences are the challenges you must overcome to have a shot at accomplishing anything significant. And it's so true. If you're going to do anything significant, it has to be difficult. Because if it's not, guess what? You're not going to appreciate it anyway.
Yeah. And it's probably not going to be appreciable if it's not. It's a little difficulty to it. Because anybody could do it.
It's kind of like leading. It's kind of like being in a position of the head of this organization. Okay. I didn't take the elevator to that.
Nope.
No, it's been a climb. It's been a fight. It's been a journey, and it continues to be that way. It's not a position of convenience. Okay. It's a position of responsibility that's taken a lot of hard work to get there. So he's so right when we talk about, paying the price. And, I've heard it say, you're going to always pay the price. Mm-hmm. You pay the price. If you pay the price right on the front side, if you do the work, if you do the things necessary, it's kind of like even personally, if you build your finances right and you make good decisions and you don't do stupid things, you pay the price now. What will it mean on the other side?
Well, I know my parents seem to be vacationing what seems to be once a month. So that's one.
They paid a price.
They did.
They paid a price. But here's the deal. if they didn't do those necessary steps on the other, the earlier stages of their life, they'd be paying a price, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Or coming to somebody else to help bail them out.
And that's a failure in our society, because, what happens is people don't want to pay the price, and then they want other people to pay the price for them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a sad state where, and I could go down the whole road on that one, but yeah, it's pay the price. You pay it early, you're going to pay the price late. No matter what, you're going to pay the price. The last part I want to talk about is one more.
Mm-hmm.
It goes on talking about difficult, challenging, and tragic things happen to everyone, which means there will come a time in your life when these things happen to you. We don't ever think, we don't wake up every day and think, well, that's going to happen to me. Well, guess what it is?
Mm-hmm.
We're always looking at if we can get into this stage, everything's going to be great. If I make a lot of money, I won't have any worries. Yeah, you will.
Yep.
Ask anybody who's made some money.
And you get more problems sometimes.
That's right. You get more problems.
Mm-hmm.
But we think if we can just get to this stage, this way, that it won't be difficult. And that's like we're trying to always reach a finish line. Well, the only true finish line is when you're dead. And so we need to always be living into that one more. What's one more thing that we can do? We need to go through life. We need to go through the day saying, did I do everything? Or was there one more thing that I could have and should have done? All of us can say that we've gone through days where we could have, should have, and didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But we need, to exercise that opportunity of one more, because you don't know if you get that one more tomorrow. So you better make that one more action today. Ed's had a mindset of what he's done in his life to expand time. He talks about, we're conditioned to think on a 24-hour day, right? We're conditioned to think that our day is subject to 24 hours. And he's created a process in his life where he's basically created 3 days into one day. And what he's saying is he concentrates in those hours to make these big decisions. Like he said, I'm going to, from 6 to 12, I'm going to make these business decisions, this time of prayer, workout. He says, I'm going to make sure that I maximize this first 6 hours, maximize it. And then I'm going to take this other part of my day and I'm going to spend it doing whatever he has laid out, and I'm going to maximize it in that. And he puts about maximizing gap times rather than looking at what happens as we go through the whole day and we kind of lollygag around and we don't press in decisions and we don't do these things. He said, it's not that I don't have days where I watch Netflix or I do things like that. But what I do is I make sure that I maximize that time. If I'm at work on Monday and when I'm at work at 8, which usually at 8 o'clock, 8 to 12, 2, whatever, I am going to make sure that I made a bunch of decisions, that I took a lot of action during that time. And so I get where he's going. You're maximizing gap windows and you're shortening down that time frame, because if you go into the day, well, I've got from 8 to 5 to do all this, you're going to be slow in making decisions, aren't you?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you're going to be slow to act, or you're going to do, and we're all guilty of it. I'll push that off to later in the day.
Yeah, or to tomorrow.
To tomorrow, I'll push off making that phone call. I'll push off having that discussion. I'll push off rather than if we will concentrate, and we will realize that we can get one more in. Mm-hmm. We can make one more effective decision. Bottom line is, he goes on to say, you can't control the end, but you can control the story in between. Love it.
I like that.
It was a great book. It goes along with many things I've read before and other leaderships, but it was a combination of really about how important it is to know to make one more decision, one more action, one more thing that could change everything. And I really love the fact that, failure and success is really often in the gap of one more decision.
What is your biggest takeaway from the book?
I really think it's just that, Matt, to not waste time hesitating in making that decision, that one action that could change everything. I think too often we want to ruminate on those, rather than making a decision, and that one more will lead to another one more, rather than sitting back, wasting time, processing, rumination, Make one more decision that could change everything in life, in business, relationship, you name it. One more action could mean everything.
Thanks for joining us today on the Uncommon CEO podcast. Subscribe to our show wherever you get podcasts. We have video episodes on our YouTube channel and more uncommon wisdom on our social media. Find all our links and resources at uncommonceopodcast.com. For Andrew Smart and all of us here at the Uncommon CEO, stay uncommon.